As you can tell, I'm not in my studio, and that's because I'm on a big shoot. In this video, I'm going to tell you how I prep for shoots like this, what I think about, how I plan it, and everything you should know about prepping for a larger photo/video shoot. So let's talk about it. First off, let me tell you a bit about this shoot. This shoot is for my 9 to 5 where I work as the lead content creator for a small bicycle company based out of New York City, Priority Bicycles. The goal of this shoot is to capture photos and videos of 4 different bicycle models. These are models that we've had in our lineup for a while and they just need some content refresh and updates. The content I capture on this trip will be used for various different things, from ads to Instagram posts to website photos to about videos on these bicycles. There's a lot of different use cases, and that's why it's important to make sure we capture as much as we can in this short time span we have. Now, speaking of this short time span, let's talk about scheduling first. Scheduling a shoot like this can be difficult. There's a lot of moving pieces and parts, and that's why it's important to nail your schedule down so everything goes smoothly when you're at your location to shoot. The first thing we did was make an outline of our shoot. It starts off super simple. Maybe it's just a list of the bikes we want to shoot, and it grows as we figure out what we need, what we want to do on this trip. After a few weeks of planning, your outline should be pretty full. Our outline includes things like timing, our locations we want to visit, what we're shooting, when we want to shoot each model. It's just an overall guide that you can follow to help your shoot run smoother, and the more you can put on this outline, the better your shoot will go. Now, in this guide, I mentioned talent. And for me, talent is one of the hardest parts of setting one of these shoots up. So let's talk about how we go about sourcing our talent. Finding talent for this shoot was actually rather easy though. This is because we have a friend in the area who knows the area well, who we've worked with before, and we could trust to help us find the best talent in the location that we're planning on shooting, which in this case is St. Augustine in Florida. The one thing I learned going into this shoot is that when you're looking for talent, it's important to already have your times and your dates set. It's much easier for someone to accept a role or a job when they know when they're going to be needed. If you're just asking around and hoping you'll get an idea of when your talent's going to be available to base it around them, it's going to be harder to find talent. Going forward, whether someone's helping me find talent or I'm doing it myself, I'm going to make sure that when I'm looking for this talent, I'm giving them set dates and times. This is going to make the whole process of finding talent go so much smoother. One of the other important parts of our outline is locations. It can be hard to find locations when you're not local to the area you're shooting in. And this is where I go on Google Earth, Instagram, TikTok, and look at reels and photos and any information I can find on popular locations in that area and locations that I think will fit the style of this shoot. I highly suggest putting a mood board together of the different locations you found, different photos you've liked from these locations to help you visualize what your shoot's going to look like when you're actually there. Now you've got your outline, you're ready for the shoot, you've booked anything you need from hotels to flights. How do you pack for a shoot like this? Now, packing is obviously going to be super subjective and it depends on the shoot and what you're shooting, but something I really think is important when you're going on a shoot like this is redundancy. What I mean by that is at any moment, at any time during your shoot or before your shoot, a piece of gear that is necessary that you need can fail. And that's why it's so important to have backups. I have 2 cameras, both can shoot videos, both can shoot photos. I have multiple lenses that I can use in case one fails. I have multiple SD cards. I have 2 sets of different lav mics. I make sure that if any of my gear fails, I have another piece of gear that can do the same job well enough where I will be happy with the results. There is nothing worse than being on a job when your gear breaks and you can't continue that shoot. It looks bad for you, the client won't be happy, and it's not something you want to deal with. This is why redundancy with your gear is so important. It may add some extra weight, it may be harder to pack, but I think it's super necessary when it comes to packing for a large shoot. So now you have your outline, your gear's all packed, everything's organized, it's time to go to your shoot. I think it's important to mention here that you should always give yourself a buffer day or 2 before your shoot date to get to your location if you're traveling. You never know what's going to happen with flights or trains or weather that will delay you, and you want to give yourself time so you won't miss your shoot date. This buffer is also super important to give you time to scout your locations before. In the case of this shoot, we got here a day before, which gave us time to scout our locations, and this led us to figuring out new spots and new locations we hadn't previously thought of, but that are going to work super well and possibly even better than the ones we had originally planned. This extra day to scout your locations is a must if you're going to someplace you don't know very well. The only thing left now is to actually do the shoot. Here are a few things that I think of when I'm doing these larger shoots that I think will help you. Wides, mediums, and tights. No matter if you're shooting photos or videos, it's important to get these 3 types of shots. The wides will set your scenes, the mediums will get you a bit closer to the action, and the tights will show detail and emotion. If you cover wide, mediums, and tights throughout your shoot, you will always have plenty to work with, and you'll get a little bit of everything, making sure your client is happy with what you shoot. when out shooting, it's also super important to think of your talent. You want them to be comfortable, you want them to be happy. It's really important to be personable and talk to them and make sure they're comfortable with how you're shooting and what you're shooting so they look happy and confident in your photos and videos. It's super important to have water and snacks on you, not just for you, but for your talent as well. Keeping everyone hydrated and no one hangry is super important. It helps the whole environment of the shoot. It keeps everyone happy, and you don't want anyone getting sick or not feeling good while you're out shooting. It's important to have this stuff on you. Before you go for a shoot, make sure you get a case of waters and some snacks. It makes a big difference for everyone's happiness on set. On these larger shoots, it can be tough to keep track of gear. It's important to keep in mind where your gear is, where you're putting everything back, and not to let it out of your sight too much because gear gets stolen real quick. Things I do to help avoid this is keeping my bag within 5 or so feet from me and always keeping an eye on it. I always make sure that I zip my bag up when I'm not using it. This keeps things organized and things from falling out. And I also try to make sure I put everything back in the right place in my bag. You don't just want to throw something in. This is how it can get damaged or lost or stolen. So make sure you're just keeping that in mind on your shoots. It's not always easy. I don't always do the best of job with it, but if you keep it in mind, it will be better than if you don't keep it in mind at all. After your shoot went great, the last important thing to do is make sure you back up your footage. You never know when a drive's gonna fail or luggage is gonna get lost. It's important to have multiple backups of your footage in multiple places. This way, if you lose something, you have a backup and you won't be letting your client down. I do want to mention that these are things I do. It doesn't mean it's the end all be all. It doesn't mean this is everything you should be doing. There are also things I'm missing and I probably should be doing myself. This is just a general guide of things you should think about before doing a larger shoot. With that, go out and shoot some photos and videos. Thanks for watching.